from a cement background. They, at some point of time, would have seen the Cement Wage Board Award, in which all the category of the workers are defined. And in that category, the lowest category worker was called, I don't know whether the wage board still exists, it's called helper. I didn't knew that after 28 years, the profession or vocation which I am going to choose is also going to be a helper. So it's a very interesting, and I very proudly say that I am helper. I help assist people to perform better, to maximize their performance, to come out of mediocrity. And this assignment includes the parenting assignment, because I have 2 young boys, and anything and everything which I do today is very much around them. And when I work with the corporate leaders, I also try to sensitize them to take 3 people as the important stakeholders in their life. One is significant self, second is your spouse, and third is your kids. Because generally in a corporate world, when we talk about stakeholders, we count everyone as a stakeholder, but forget that this is a significant stakeholder in our life. It took 27.5 years for me to understand that how am I important in this journey of life, how my other stakeholders are important. I will not put the numbers, but we will talk about it today, that all stakeholders are 100% important, and it's a tight balance which we will have to work on it. Thiru has given a very difficult assignment to me today to talk to this group after lunch. And when I was getting introduced, I was just wondering that how do we start? And I was also talking to Indu on this subject. So I think the topic which is given to me, and is very near and dear to me, is raising the bar, which is an opportunity for all of us, because if HR has to transform, each one who is sitting here has to raise his bar. Now let's quickly do an exercise on your table, that if without speaking, if you have to tell somebody that you need to raise the bar, what kind of signals or signs you will give it to that individual. Let's see how much creative HR professionals we have on the table. So move around, make a full circle, and let's see with what sign language you can tell your group people to raise the bar. Let's see your creativity. It is mandatory for every participant on the table to use his creativity in that. Remember, this is zipped. Your mouth is zipped. You are not allowed to speak at this stage. Only by sign language you have to express. You are not supposed to speak, Pradyumna. You are not allowed to speak, okay? Only the sign language. Okay, so now let's move quickly to the next stage. Visualize that this is a Navratri phase, and God is here, Goddess is here, and He has allowed us to speak now. And now you have to talk in your group what raising the bar in the transformation context means to you individually. Let's talk that. Raising the bar.
Raising the bar to me is something
On your table with your group. Yes. Yeah. Kirti, can you complete the circle here? Yeah. Dheeraj, can you come closer and so that you can listen to each other's voice? Discussed? Okay. I'll give you the next set of instructions now. Share what is the one point which has come out uniquely from their table, and what does it mean to them in terms of raising the bar. The word of caution here is, gentlemen, ladies, the word of caution is you cannot repeat the same thing which has been spoken by the other table. So you have to be very mindful what is spoken. So you must have enough items in your list. This table, yes. We'll have to see.
To us, raising the bar is enhancing one's potential to meet the goals. It can be personal and professional.
Okay, thank you. No, just one. One, the best one which has come out. Who's speaking?
we are saying the courage to fail.
Courage to fail. Excellent.
It's creating and setting new benchmarks.
Okay. Let's hear the lady now.
Stretching the goals.
Stretching the goal. Okay. Guys, you can see how many different connotations, meaning of the same word is going to emerge.
Limitless.
Limitless. Okay.
Our table, this one, coming out of comfort zone and challenging the status quo.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Continuous improvement.
Okay. Thank you, Surendra. Let's hear. Kirti, you will speak. The hands are moving like this.
For us, it is to be more proactive and bringing value to the different departments of the business.
Okay, okay. You can add that point.
And redesigning and changing ourselves as and when required.
Changing ourselves as and when required. Okay. So you would be more reactive, right? First part you said proactive, second part you said reactive. Think about it. As and when required is more reactive. Who's going to speak?
Stretching your own limits.
Stretching your own limits. Okay.
Increase your base level.
Base level. Okay. Okay.
touching new heights.
Okay.
Unlearn to learn.
Okay, okay.
Continuously improving the quality of deliverables.
Okay, okay. So you can see there is a mix of responses which is coming. Some people are only focused towards the business and others. Some people barely touching self. So it's a very important observation here that raising the bar looks like all for the outside world.
So raising the bar is a good thought process where doing ordinary things in an extraordinary manner, which every individual opens up with out-of-box thinking, balancing both profession and personal life, as you rightly said, the stakeholders, important, keeping in mind that we need to take our business to next level.
Okay,
Thank you.
Taking a challenge positively.
Taking a challenge positively, okay. And the last table, let's see what Sumit has to say. No, Praveen will say? Okay.
Raising the bar, according to us, is challenging oneself.
Challenging oneself, all right. So thank you so much, everyone. I think you all made good effort, and I am now fairly convinced that now group is ready to listen. So this whole investment of time was basically to trigger your mind back. Now, yes, Thiru, you have to say something? No, it's fine. So let's move to the topic today, raising the bar. Raising the bar, and I'm essentially going to talk about raising the bar as an individual, self, so that you can lead self better. Only when you can lead yourself better, leading others will become so much natural and easy, and it is going to be immensely helpful to you. Knowing self is an option which many people believe they can exercise. But to my mind, if you want to even survive in today's world, forget about thriving, knowing self is a necessity. If you happen to be an ambitious professional, ambitious human being, then it becomes a necessity to know yourself very well. And we are going to touch upon those topics that once you know yourself, how beautiful this life can be, how successful we can be, how happy we can be. It's an opportunity. It's not very commonly talked about topic in corporate world, but I believe as a people professionals, as a practitioners, it is very important for you to understand these dimensions of life, because it is going to individually help you. It is going to help your family, because majority of the people who are sitting here are very young. They have young kids, and parenting is very noble, honorable, and responsible role to play. And the way you have partnered with your spouse to co-create a child, even in parenting, you have to play that role very actively and very responsibly. If your fundamentals are thorough on parenting dimensions at your domestic front, it will be that much extra easy for you, even at workplace, to handle whether you say generation X, Y, Z, whatever you want to call it. Because those dimensions are not going to shift too much. And that's super critical for all of us to understand and start valuing it. So let's move to the topic which I feel very inspired to talk about. In 2012, when I started my new career, this topic came to my mind. Is there anybody familiar with this topic called corporate athlete? This subject, anybody is familiar? No, okay. Are you familiar with athlete as a term? Yes. Okay. Now, it's very interesting that we know athletes, and generally you see the world-class athletes who attain and achieve something very significant, and name, fame, and money eventually comes only for a small window of time, 8 to 10 years, barring exceptions like Federer, barring exceptions like Dhoni, who are able to still survive, thrive, and still grow. Navratilova, yeah, you will have many people. And in corporate world, you will see many people, many corporate athletes, even after 65, 70 plus. They are still thriving, they are still valuable. And there are still people in 30s who have become unemployable. Now, what this concept is talking about, that if the best of the athlete has a window of time which is something like 8, 10, 12 years maximum, and his whole focus is on 8, 10, 12 years, mind you, on an athletic domain, on a sports domain, his 90-95% of time is going where? Training, practicing, plus. How much time he gets to perform? Very small window of time, ranging from 9.9 seconds to max 90 minutes and maybe more, but not endless time, right? Now let's look at the corporate athletes, the corporate executive. How much time they get to practice? And how much time they have to perform? And what is the lifespan of a corporate athlete, corporate executive? By the time they start 20, 25, they have 35, 40 years, which basically means they have to do many extraordinary things to survive, to thrive, and maintain their employability. Is that happening? And it's a very rare situation that you see that individual taking ownership and responsibility for self. There are some great organizations who are able to facilitate and help. But eventually, each individual who is sitting here or each individual who is working for a JK Group is a CEO of his life. So either his manager supports or his leadership supports, and in spite of that support, if it is a business-like support, some more support is needed, for which individual will have to make an effort to acquire that intellectual horsepower, to acquire that bandwidth to remain employable. And that's the biggest challenge which is coming in a corporate world, because of one simple reason. My generation was in love with the test matches, and the current generation is in T20. We are now talking about Super 10. So within 120 balls, within 300 balls, the games have to be played, won, and get the name, fame, and money. So rule of the games are completely changing. And therefore, the opportunity for all of us is to start expanding our energies, and as you can see on the screen, those dimensions have to be immediately be valued and attended to, which is not receiving attention at all. And I think that's a kind of critical, crucial conversation people, professionals will have to start doing it for self and for the others. Else, very soon, the mediocrity will start surrounding us. And since this is the group which is the gatekeeper, conscious keeper, custodian of people development, will have to recreate some new thoughts, new feelings towards increasing employability of self and employability of others, so that organization is able to accomplish and attain its goal. All right? Let's look at further. When I started my journey, one thing which hit me very hard was a AC syndrome. Yes. One thing which hit me very hard was a AC syndrome. Can anybody guess what is this AC means here? What else? Okay. What else? Sorry? Always correct. Which comes? Always comfort zone. Yeah. So for me, the first thing which came, as I said in the beginning, the A stands for arrogance. One is you get guaranteed paycheck on 30th of every month. I was fortunate, I worked for the company, 28th of the month I was paid, right? And you become complacent towards learning. And that's where the mediocrity starts setting in. And that is where I had to revamp and reinvent myself. And the kind of certification this young lady was reading out was the certification which I went for after leaving the corporate world. And because that was the only survival strategy I had, I never realized that that will also help me to thrive. And it costed big money. It was a big investment because for all those programs you have to travel. But I was able to build the community, I was able to learn from them, and the masters are always there, as you said very rightly, if you are courageous enough. And I think very important for you is to now show that desperation and hunger to learn, relearn, as the group said, and equip yourself very differently. I think nobody in HR is untouched with this topic called VUCA. Nobody. For me, this VUCA had a very different meaning. While we are trying to address the VUCA challenges outside world, what is people professionals are doing about the employees who are going through VUCA within themselves? There is no attempt, there is no direction. Because the workplace challenges, the demands, pressures are building enough difficult situation for people. And this VUCA, which is inside us, right? I don't have to explain the acronym fully, but this part never received any attention from anyone in the corporate world or from the individual. And when we are going to talk about the personality dimensions, you'll realize some personalities are inherently more anxiety and stress prone. So their VUCA is going up and down. And that is preventing them to deliver their role, deliver their responsibility, deliver their duties, both work and life. Who is going to look at it? Only the individual. Sometime, if you are fortunate, then organization. My humble submission to this fraternity is that for very long, we have not relied on using science to help people. I think now the time has come when enough science is available to measure, to assess, to diagnose the situation and scenario and help. Because whatever we call it, as I said, I belong to a community which is fundamentally a helper, right? Have to be thorough about it. So go back to Google, research it, else I'll pass it on to Thiru, okay, or Indu. You can take that one slide from her and understand how beautiful helping can be. It happens to be my bread and butter, but it's also my purpose of life. Okay? When we talked about the corporate athlete, that's the time I realized that knowing self, bringing unconscious to conscious, is the immediate necessity, which we have never valued. And today science allows us to know ourselves. I believe the people who are sitting here is part of the ambitious organization, and they are ambitious professionals. And all of them want to thrive. Surviving is not the necessity. You work for a robust group, robust leadership, where a lot of transformational subjects are being looked into. And I'm very pleased, Thiru, that the subject transformation is being considered for HR theme this year. And I believe one of the intention is also to take through this professional to a thriving stage. And it's a very well-timed effort. You can see when I'm talking about self-awareness. Sorry, which book? Edgar Sheen, Helping. So you can see how beautifully self-awareness can help you navigate yourself. It is as beautiful as if you know your car or a bike, if you know it very well, how easy it becomes for you to navigate in a difficult terrain and situations and be at ease and peace. Knowing self is also as beautiful and enjoyable for you. I'm personally a great believer that every person who's sitting here must seek help from his leaders, or your HR leaders sitting here, or maybe Thiru, to help you undertake this journey with the use of science. One of the things which I encountered when I started my journey was that what got you here won't get you there. Is there any person who has read this book? Okay. So people who have read this book, they will understand this title itself is hard-hitting. What got you here won't get you there. So if you are a manager, from manager you want to become a leader, or tomorrow you become CEO, or you are a bachelor to marriage, marriage to parenting, remember the tools and tackles what you have been using it is not going to help you anymore, any further. And you must know your blind spots, because I'm putting 2 books here, their cover page, which I just took it accidentally while leaving my home yesterday. And I thought I'll just show it to you. The blind spots are sometimes deadly in bringing the mediocre performance, or sometimes even the poor performance. This book, I think all people who are sitting here must pick up. It's not expensive. It's less than 300 rupees. Pick up, and if you love Kindle, you'll get much cheaper. Marshall Goldsmith. Huh? Okay? Yes. Yeah. And that's a uniqueness of the personality dimension when we are going to talk about it. The smart and ambitious people, Vijay, sometimes slip unknowingly towards arrogance. Or they have amazing inability of listening. Now, when we are talking about raising the bar, which is given or gifted to me by Thiru, you will see in this diagram, and this is how in organization the progression happens, you will see leading word is common. So from leading self to leading enterprises or enterprise, if you don't know yourself, the leading becomes impossible task. And that's the reason today, if you look at any basic management program in the best B schools, or in the executive education program, or advanced management program, they carry out battery of tests on the CEOs who attend, because the program costing is about 28 lakhs to 65 lakhs for a week-long program. And the companies, when they invest, they have multiple facilitators who shares your personality leadership dimensions to you personally, so that you are in a deeper understanding of yourself. And it has become an integral part of the various executive management programs that they educate you about yourself. And I think that's a journey which is taken up much later, but stakes are very high. Because if you are abrasive, aggressive, overly competitive, or what all, then the consequences on your balance sheet, on your P&L, on your company's brand and image is very, very different. Even day-to-day relationship with your people are going to be very toxic, as we call it. So it's very important for you to understand that if you are convinced today at this moment that raising the bar makes sense to you, personally and professionally, because mind you, I would just like to sensitize you the way you walk and talk. The cameras are on at a workplace, cameras are on even in your domestic front, kids are watching you. Parenting is hugely noble, honorable, and responsible job. So what you do, what you don't do, what you act, react, or enact, your kids are watching, and they are going to follow it. That's in the domestic context. In a workplace context, since the senior people are sitting almost everywhere, you need to see what you do and what you don't do. Your team members are going to imitate you. And that will become integral part of your personality and leadership style. So be very mindful and conscious. Therefore, self-awareness plays a super critical role in life. Let's look at in the organization context, where we need to start working. We need to start working at two levels. First one is significant self. And I love this word, significant self, because normally in our day-to-day life, we say significant others. Unless you start valuing and loving yourself, the journey of life always remain very mediocre. Leading self starts from knowing self, knowing who am I, what are my strong strengths, what are my watch out and negatives and derailers, right? What are my ego traps, and what are my unconscious biases. Then comes, if this is me, how I impact myself. Because the way I think and feel, that's how I impact my own psyche and my mind, body, and soul. Therefore, knowing self is very important. How you impact yourself, because first and foremost, it's very easy to say my boss is like this, my company is like this. Yes, they are different as you are. But how you receive and process those thoughts and feelings is the impact you are creating on yourself. So how you impact yourself, you must know. Okay? Another important part is the way you impact yourself, it's also going to impact your performance and your deliveries, as you can see it. It's also going to impact on your achievement and accomplishment of your ambition. So you must know yourself so that you can monitor yourself. I'm not using the word control. You can monitor yourself. You empower yourself and you lead yourself in a very accurate sense. And once you know yourself, then I think the next step for thriving becomes very clear. Then raising the bar becomes very natural to you. You know what more, what extra, more than the ordinary you need to do. That's an opportunity for you. And in absence of that, you will do a lot of things as an activity, but outcome may not change. Please know yourself well, so that I'm sure there are a couple of experienced people who would have used scooters in good old days, right? Where we used to have the spark plugs. Has anybody used the scooters with the spark plug? And at times, the scooter or a bike starts misfiring. Have you experienced that? And what do you do at that point of time? So what happens? Why do you play with the spark plug and not other things? You are absolutely right. But why do you open spark plug and play with the spark plug? this is to be correct. There is a carbon deposit, or there is a gap between the tip and the plug which has reduced or increased, right? So sometimes there are a lot of people who do a lot of activities, right? But it is not getting centrally focused, hence you are not getting the best outcome. Therefore, keep watching yourself. Let's come to the second, the other stakeholders. When we want to lead others, how do we impact others? In others, as we said, there is your team, there is your family for sure. So whatever construct you have, the personality construct you have, it's going to impact others also. And that you are entitled to know, and you must know. How does it impact your relationship with the stakeholders in work and life? That's very important to know. And finally, in the workplace context, how it impacts the performance, delivery, and results of your team, or teams if you happen to hold the larger team, that also you must consciously know. Because your purpose could be, if you happen to be in manufacturing, the cost, quality, and delivery, or if you are in a sales, then it could be the sales and the margins and the profits. Therefore, you must know in a commercial context also. What is very important is that people, professionals start seeing the linkage of people, performance, and profit very quickly. In a way, what I'm suggesting is you should be able to see the linkage between mega, macro, and micro in one go, or micro, macro, or mega in one go. And that is what is becoming a necessity from practitioners, professionals like HR. Okay? And eventually, you need to see that that's what is going to help in building the brand and image and legacy which you want to create in the organization, if that happens to be your agenda, which is an unconscious agenda and obvious outcome which we expect. Okay, I'm going to create a legacy and brand for myself. The moment you do it consciously, the game changes. Yeah. And therefore, Sharma ji, you asked a very precious question, which I think I'll not say mostly, majority of the working professionals are struggling with. And let me share a quick example. I was assisting, coaching a very senior lady in a European company in Pune, and she had a similar dilemma. She went to Stockholm for review, and then when she came back, so I just asked, so how was your experience? She said, Anurag, it was awesome. I said, please describe what is awesome. So she said, normally my Europeans are very reserved, they are not formal, like ghar pe aa jao, lunch kar lo, dinner kar lo, meet my family. But this lady took me home, and I met their family. We had a food and drinks together, it was fun. And in the process, I realized that this lady who is a vice president, and vice president in a multinational context is equivalent to CEOs. Only the vice president and general managers are given the responsibility of CEO. She says, the most beautiful observation I had with this, my boss, is when she comes to work, she's only at work. And when she goes to home, she's only at home. So 8 o'clock office starts, they are in office at 7:30, 4:30 office stops, 4:30 they're out. In between, barely they manage time for lunch and they're done. And when you go to home, there is no talk of office. Weekend, they switch off. So socially, culturally, they're very different, right? But if you know yourself that if you are a completely activity person, right, then for you, work and home is same. And unknowingly, and that's a blind spot, you will happily and very proudly carry forward your responsibility at home and would like to show off to your family how busy and precious I am. It is not the business necessity. Mind you, any company won't pay for more than 10 hours. It is very clear. It is your need, but you need to understand that where are you occupied. Okay? I was assisting a sales head of a central India, and this guy was receiving call from one of his colleagues every day at 9 o'clock. Every day at 9 o'clock. And the call continues for 1.5 hours to 2 hours. 80% of the time this guy is talking. So one day, most of the precious advice normally comes from the wife. And this precious advice came from the wife, and she says that you receive a call and 80% of the time you are talking, then what is that he's calling for? And it's very interesting. And you must, why I'm actually pleading and urging to know yourself, many of us unknowingly fall in love with our own voice. Do you understand what I'm saying? Knowingly, unknowingly, we fall in love with our voice. Now, if I happen to be manager or a leader, and I'll borrow his word one more time, I must have a courage and humility to listen to others. Because मैं अंतर्यामी नहीं हूं ना, सामने वाले ने कहा ही नहीं और मैं सब समझ गया. ज्ञान संध्या चालू है, right? So it's very important as a parent, as a manager and leader, to build huge ability to listen. And listen not to reply, but listen to understand. And I'm sure, since majority happens to be he, you would have encountered that situation from the spouse, when your spouse tells you, I just want you to listen. I'm not looking for solution. Because you are listening to reply. There are many situations when kid will say, Papa, sun to lo. Our intents are good. Parenting intention are always good, very pure and very pious. But inability to listen kills everything in relationship. That's very important in work life also. Okay? Thank you for asking that question. Now let's look at the stakeholders in life, right? And I just wanted to bring this dimension in front of you, since you also asked this question, that all the stakeholders are super critical in our life. We cannot say this is more important over others. But you have to strike a balance. And you have to strike balance only when you start valuing significant self. And that's where your journey of transformation needs to start if we want to help Thiru to accomplish the transformation of the company. And that's crucial for you, okay? Let me bring out something very beautiful which I learned from Marshall Smith. When we are in a journey of learning, that's where your word comes back here. Marshall Goldsmith said very beautifully when he was training us in the coaching dimension, 3 things you must have. If you don't have, then walk out. Though my belief is, if you don't have, you can always acquire. Because HR people use one jargon quite often is nature versus nurture, right? And it's the fact. And I'll tell you why it is true, right? So if you have a courage, you have an humility, and if you are a disciplined guy, you can learn anything. You can master anything. But without CHD, it's not going to be easy. Mostly it is going to be lip service or mostly English. And I struggle many times with many business leaders with whom I work. They sometimes take a lot of time to accept themselves as is. When you bring out their profile in front of them, this is not me, Anurag. And the next question is, if the blood sample, urine sample, and stool sample is yours, then you are saying the lab itself is faulty, which is very easy to say, right? It cannot happen because in all this top-end leadership assessment, there is no human intervention. At least in the pathological labs, there is a human intervention. Here, there is no human intervention. Server generates, based on algorithms, all the reports for you. So be very clear if you want to be successful and happy. Remember this CHD, it is going to help you and help your colleagues to understand this. If it is not there, then get help for them. Now, as I was talking, all of us have some tools and tackles. This is very pictorial presentation that we all have a toolbox, right? And this is how the toolbox looks like. Each individual in his brain has got a toolbox, right? And in that, there are tools. Now, what is very important to understand is, what tools help me as management trainee, or officer, or manager, or general manager, or VP, may not help me when I become integral part of executive committees and the board. Which basically means at every stage, I need to relook my toolbox, identify lesser used and redundant tools, discard it so that there is a space created so that you can add new. But this process is either muted or made defunct. And this is where slowly and steadily we start slipping towards mediocrity. Are you with me on this? Because you cannot maintain Audi with Maruti 800 toolbox. Is it possible? Just cannot. And if you accidentally happen to become VP and company gives you Audi, and you say, no, I would like to carry this, it won't help you to service or even repair the wheel in case of any crisis. So please understand, when you move, help your child to understand, help your child in domestic front, help your child when you have a management trainee in GT to understand and appreciate what is going to work at campus won't work in corporate. In the first role, what will work and get him promotion may not be fully useful for the next and the next and next level. This first we need to understand it and appreciate it thoroughly. This toolbox revamping has to happen periodically, and we must build that habit that I am going to let it go. Some people inherently are very possessive. Like you go to somebody's house, they've got one TV, they got another TV. And that TV is still lying in a storeroom. They've got one fridge, another fridge still lying. They're very possessive about things, right? But you have to see what is valuable and what is not serving the purpose, right? And if it is not serving the purpose, if you are going to still retain it, then you will be doing it at some cost. And that, as a professional, you need to know that. Any questions on this toolbox? Any thoughts? How much sense it is making? Yes, sir. Yeah, you are right. There is no logical answer to it. This is a pictorial presentation. How will it look like? But thank you so much for No, your observation is right, but then this is just a mere presentation to understand that there are going to be toolbox in our head. It will have a limited space, and periodically we'll have to safai karni padegi. Okay? Now let's look at our human brain. We all understand broadly it has got a left dimension and the right dimension. When we are trying to understand ourselves, we also need to understand what is there in the left brain and what is there in the right brain. And very interesting observation, you will see it here, that till you are on the managerial side, you can heavily rely on the left brain dimensions. Though right brain dimensions would be necessary, but you would be assessed, evaluated, promoted, rewarded, recognized, essentially on the left brain dimensions. But remember Marshall Goldsmith's book, what does he say? What got you here won't get you there. So you will have to play a different game the moment you become a leader. Right brain dimensions will become more important for you as you move from a managerial role to leadership role. And you can see it from here that this leadership is right brain. What plays another very important role is data are going to be super critical in life. However, intuition will also become equally critical for you, because sometime you'll have to take decision with 40 to 50% of data available. And that's where your intuitive mind, which whole world is talking today. All the young MBAs who have come recently as a management trainee, they would have heard a lot from the corporate leaders. Intuition, intuition, intuition. Intuition is the right brain. And there are, you will see if you Google it, if you go to YouTube, there are very special meditation and exercises which are now being taught to the top leaders to strengthen their intuitive skills, because it's precious. It's precious. You have to read data between the lines. What some people also say, instinct, gut, those things are equally important, and you need to start appreciating and working on it. 5 years back, or maybe 5 to 6 years back, the whole world, all of a sudden, who valued left brain heavily, started saying, no, we have to use the whole brain. And then the Daniel Goleman, who is the father of emotional intelligence, he said that you'll have to start valuing right brain, because in a leadership role, right brain plays more important role than the left, because in any case, you can't become a leader unless your left brain is strong. So numbers, data, strategy, success is going to be important, but at the same time, happiness will also matter. And therefore, my request to you is that even as a parent, as a young parent or future parent, definitely value success, but don't value over happiness. Happiness is right brain dimension. Bring balance to the new generation which you are dealing with. It's an opportunity, because that's how you nurture and nourish the right brain. All right? Yeah. See, some parents are traditionally, and it does happen in Eastern Asian countries, we are very much driven on numbers, grades, success, first division, second division kind of thing, right? If you do anything excessively, it will be at the cost of something. And that you should be cognizant of. Other side is untapped, not adequately nourished and nurtured, which is equally important, right? And the collaboration and the teamwork, the relationship, interpersonal sensitivity, which eventually become a part of, major part of your life, is just not untapped, just not explored. So the belief which sets in at a very early stage in a child is these things are less valuable or not valuable. And that's where parenting dimension goes wrong. And I'm going to bring very interesting research work done by a very, very beautiful scientist, Erik Erikson. And that would be very insightful for all of you. Let's look at, I just picked it up a day before. I thought this would be connecting with the theme, because we are all dealing with people as a practitioner. We must understand the how when the child is born and he gets developed till stage 5 of his development, which is up to 18, 20. And if enough is taken care, then by and large we are increasing the predictability in child's behavior in time to come. Let's look at Erik Erikson's model. And if you can see in the red, you know, it's a beautiful thing which as a parent, we fail to appreciate, that what is happening in the mind of a young infant child. Have a look on the screen. Now, if you encounter some maladjusted person or a difficult person, instead of condemning, empathize with him, help him, because fundamentally somewhere something has not gone right for him. I am a firm believer that every parent intentions are very pure and pious, but a lot of things goes, unnoticed by them because of their own programming and own personality. So I will never ever doubt or judge any parenting intention. But the more informed and educated you are on the parenting dimension, the more justice you can do it with your role. So it's very important for the youngsters who are sitting here and the experienced leaders who are sitting here to understand and appreciate what goes inside us till stage 5. And that continues with us for a long time, or till the time we exist. So this is from the parenting perspective. However, what I'm trying to say is, even in the workplace, if we have a colleague or colleagues like this, they need empathy and help. And that's where we can help as a people professional. And if nothing has helped, then I think that individual is saying, I'm not also willing to help myself. It does happen in a rarest of rare cases when somebody refuses. And I have been assisting corporate leaders at a CXO level. There are people who take very long time to get convinced that I need to do something for myself because it is impacting me first, then others. And the moment they understand that how you impact yourself, the life changes. And I can tell you this with complete certainty because I had to work on myself when I left the corporate world, because there was a lot of issues. Because हिंदी में अगर मैं आपको कहूँ तो भगवान ने सर्वगुण संपन्न लोग बनाना बंद कर दिया है, तो कोई सर्वगुण संपन्न होता ही नहीं है. You get my point? हर में कुछ न कुछ गुण और गुण होते हैं, बट गुण और गुण के साथ अवगुण भी होते हैं, और हमें दोनों जानना बहुत जरूरी है. I hope people are okay when I speak Hindi, right? Except Thiru has mastered Hindi now, don't underestimate him. Okay, so yes. Yes. Yeah. So Sharma ji, you have asked $1 million question here, and that's the reason I have been talking for last the time I started, that know yourself. Some people are driven, everyone has a unique set of fears also. And if you know your personality, you are entitled to know what are my unique fears, right? And if you know unique fears, then probably you have also opportunity of remediation. But it is good to know what are my fears. And that's where, when these leadership assessments and all are carried out in our organizations, in some cases we are able to see that insecurities and fears are much higher in some personalities than others. But there is nobody untouched with insecurities and fears. In some people's life, fears and insecurities overplace, and therefore they need a lot of help. And sometimes it goes to such an extent that it also becomes a mental illness, depression, anxieties and all. But today, like yesterday was a mental illness day, right? And there were a lot of discussions happening. These are like any other illness. So go to doctor, seek help. There are people who are willing to help, but you must understand that on certain given situations, I behave in certain way which is not a desired way, right? And therefore knowing self becomes important, because I'm otherwise normal, but the moment such trigger comes, I behave very differently, right? Therefore I need help, I need assistance. And मैं तो मतलब कभी-कभी हंसते-हंसते अपने बच्चों को बोलता हूँ कि वो एक ऐड मेरे को बहुत पसंद है शर्मा जी, माउंटेन ड्यू का ऐड देखा आपने? डर के आगे जीत है. But this prevents us all through our life, from infancy till stage. And the early you address this, डर के आगे जीत पक्की है. But that's also very important dimension of parenting, that you don't unknowingly instill, engineer fears in your child. Help him or her to take calibrated, calculated risk. Somebody said beautifully, failing forward, right? Encouraging people to fail forward. How can failing be for forward? But that's reality. In our traditional Eastern Asian model, failing is a very big thing. And it was very interesting through last year there were some universities visiting for campus in school in Pune, and there was a director from Berkeley. She was addressing queries from the parents, and she could feel that parents with all good intents had a lot of doubts and worries. And at the end, when she was wrapping up and people had no other questions, she said, "Can I request all of you for one thing? Allow your child to fail. Failure is not opposite to success." But our mindsets are very different. Socially, culturally, we look at failure very differently. And therefore the fears, therefore the insecurity. Is that good enough for you to know? Yeah. Thank you, Sharma ji. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not a fear, Sharma ji. If I see it from the personality dimension, some personality are also having a trait of a self-doubt. Okay? It's not a fear, it's a self-doubt. They need a validation from outside world. And I must congratulate you that you have identified this dimension. So self-doubt can be killing, right? However, if you know it, you can also improve this situation. इतना experience है, इतनी दुनिया देखी है, मैं खुद दुकान के अंदर घुसा हूँ, अपने जेब से पैसे दिए हूँ, then why am I doubting? But this is human nature. There are some personality who carry a higher level of self-doubt always. So they need confirmation and validation from the outside world. And that's the reason, once again I am saying, knowing self is precious. Now, let's look at a basic transactional level when we are talking about different kind of personality. I'm bringing some dimensions here, and I want you to see what is your predominating dimension. You see D, you see I, you see S, you see C. Every one will have one predominating on which he or she operates. There is nothing good and bad when we talk about personality. But you must know what is your predominating. And if somebody, after you have gone through it for 1 minute, I'll ask you if you can volunteer and say, where do you stand? So Sumit, where do you stand in DISC dimension? Where did you find yourself? I and I, yeah. If you look at people on D and I, they would be amazingly in love with their voice. Amazingly in love with their voice. They want to talk. They have a serious inability to listen. If you look at C and S, they have an amazing ability to listen. You don't know whether they have something to say, right? So you can see from here, some personalities are more skewing towards thinking, some are more on feeling, some people are more logical and data sensing, some people are more intuitive. Some people are fiction and feelings, some people are on hard data, some people are on task, some people are only on people. So if you look at the C and D's, they are more task. If you look at S and I, they are on people. And business is all about task and people till you are at a managerial level. And you need to strike a balance. But since it's completely a blind spot, I will play my cards the way I believe it is right. And hence, the people around us need help. Because that's how they are wired, that's how they are programmed. And that's how we can help them to perform better. So I developed a very unique model on performance mediocrity. And when I was looking at performance mediocrity as a subject on Google, I realized that there is a study available which says that 73% of people become below par performers because of their supervisors and managers. Because they are not being coached and mentored. They are not been assigned the role properly. They are not hand-holded, which is the role of a supervisor. 73%. And it's a serious concern. Anybody would like to share where is his or her predominating looks like? Can I see some courageous professionals? Yes. D. Okay. Yes. I and C both. But which is predominating? Okay. 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 Anybody else? S. Okay. 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 I on I. Okay. 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 So if you are high on any side, you will be high at the cost of something else. Moderate it, balance it. Okay. One secret which I can give it to you is, if you happen to be D, can you guess where your spouse would be? Spot on. And that's what generally you will see when the God creates couple. There is a compatibility. Okay. Supplementation happens from the opposite direction. And that's how the marriage comes, right? And over a period of time when the marriage matures, then only you realize that it's a complementary personality rather than anything else, right? So we'll move to the next. I think for many of you, it will be useful you take a picture and do self-assessment discreetly if you don't want to talk about it. Now, one of the most precious or most valued leadership assessment which is available in the world is called Hogan assessment. It is used for leadership selection. It is for leadership development, career advancement, coaching, or anything what is being done. I use it for CXO selection. I use it for executive transition programs. I use it as a team performance work also. And it is very useful, statistically highly reliable assessment tool. And it tells you in a business context what kind of personality you have. And it's very interesting to know that they have identified 10 critical motives, values, and preferences inventory. Yes.
Can you please go to this
Disc one?
this DCSI?
Yes. Yeah.
So higher as reveals or signifies the fear.
Fear will be there, sir, in everyone. There would be some kind of fear and insecurity in everyone.
But of the people who have got the high D,
They will also have fear. High I also will have fear. High C will also have fear. There is no human being who is untouched with fear and insecurity. There is no one. Some people will have higher than others. That's possible. And therefore, knowing self, what I'm saying, is going to be helpful. Does that help, Sharmaji?
that actually this is some high D
Yes.
or high I
Yeah.
influencing generating ideas.
Yeah.
And you compare it with the high the steadiness.
Yeah.
So then what will be the difference between?
See, if you really see, the difference between this is these guys are very talkative. They are more fictional people, more emotional people. For that matter, these people are more balanced, calm, sober, fact-based. They can reflect better. These people can react better. There is a difference. Now, S, typically people would be more tradition and checking, always self-doubt. If they have to transform and change, they will show all kind of resistance and reluctance. They would like to hold on to traditions and conventions by justifying everything and anything. And that, if they know that this is what is preventing me, then I think they can help themselves. And actually, when we do organization change management program, when we map people, we understand how many people are going to sit as a roadblock in front of you, will not allow you to move an inch, and how many people would be enabler for you. We do it at a leadership level because a lot of resistance and reluctance comes at the top, and you must know that. So this is, can we go ahead, Sharma ji? We can talk in the evening further. I think we will be more spiritual, and I'll be able, my flow will be more natural. Because I was just sharing with Pradyumna that spirit and spirituality comes together. So let's look at this. And in Hogan assessment, they have identified 10 key motives, values, and preference, which if understood well, it can actually help us to identify which profession, which occupation, which role I would be more successful. Naturally, else if I choose that path, then I'll have to actually acquire that additional bandwidth within myself. If you really look at the power, and as you see the description, it's very, very necessary for a person to get the things done. But excessive power also could be very dangerous character in an individual. And he wants to push, nudge, hit, do anything for the result. Okay? So in personality dimensions, what is very important to understand is low is not bad and high is not good. Okay? You have to see it in the context and the role. That's very important for you to understand and play it accordingly. If I know it, probably I will adjust it with each individual, with my team, with my kids accordingly based on how I'm dealing with that person. So if you really see here, there is a people dimension. Recognition is an important dimension. Some people don't need recognition. Some people always need spotlight. That's how they are, right? Some people love fun more than others. Fun and party is integral part of their life. For anything what happens, let's celebrate, right? It's like that. For some people, no, it's not important. I'll prefer to sit with my family. I won't go. But then the guy need to understand in the role context, the parties and celebration are part of it. So probably I'll have to stretch and push myself. That's also a necessity. Helping people, which is a part of any leaders and managers role. If I'm very low on this, then my team will struggle with me. But if it is too high, then there would be a compromise between task and people. Then I'll let go the task and manage people. Sympathize more easily with them. Okay? Let's look at the other 5 dimensions. As I said, tradition, security, commerce. If I'm looking at any business leader, minus commerce, if he does not value money, it is worrying for me. If a person goes to a leadership role, if he goes to the sales role, or if he happens to be a plant head, and if his scores on commerce is low, I need to start helping him first, because that could be completely a blind spot for him. So in some of the role, the necessity of science, which means number and analytics, is higher, and I must know where do I stand, or where does my colleague or my leader stand, and then provide help. Now, let's look at leadership personality dimension, which is very, very important for you to understand. That when we look at people, what dimensions becomes hugely important. And if you really look at it, all 7 dimensions are important, but even theoretically, all being high is not going to be possible. There would be something on the average, something on the low. but I need to see in the context and in the role that what is that needed. And it was very interesting for me that last month I was assisting a business leader in Bombay. And when I did this assessment, Thiru, it was strange that I didn't see ambition score being low. He's a CEO for 7 years. And that explains. He's CEO for 7 years. His ambition is low. Prudence is low. Okay? And the powers dimension on that side is average. So for a senior guy who has been CEO, it is very difficult to accept that these dimensions are low, right? And he was very, very disturbed with this. And finally, I had to tell him that I'm only helping you to interpret. All the responses were chosen by you, so it is your report. So, and after listening to his own debrief report, which took almost 4 hours, because it's a very slow process. It is not IV that you give it. You have to pace it with the personality and how he's absorbing. For a week, there was a silence. It looks to me, even today, that he was hurt. He was hurt with me or knowing himself, I was not very sure. But after a week, he came back and he says, Anurag, you know, yesterday, my group CEO gave me feedback on these dimensions to me. That since business is going to be expanding now, these things can come in delivering the role, right? So at an apex level, right, it's not easy for people to accept that even after attaining that much of success, that there is something not so good. But as I said, there is no one complete. Everybody will have pluses and minuses. And pluses can be also taking you to downside, and lower area can also be uplifted if you have CHD. Okay? This brings Sharmaji and Sharmaji, your point on fear. Every person in this planet under pressure behaves very differently. Every person. Some people will start doing the same thing excessively when they are under fear or pressure. Some people will start behaving completely opposite to it. And sometimes the behaviors could be derailing behaviors. And whether you like it or not, some jobs bring pressure. It can be pressure from the home or the pressure from the workplace. And you can't be losing balance and control and hurting yourself and hurting others. Because it's very important for all of us to understand as a people practitioners that people who are toxic, they're toxic to outside world. Second, first they are toxic towards themselves. So they are victim of their own toxicity. And mind you, those are the people who slowly and steadily moves towards blood pressure, heart issues, and plus. And I believe that as a responsible human being, as a father, as a boss, as a role model for many people, how can you start hurting yourself? You will only start hurting yourself when you don't know yourself. That in given situation, whether I respond or I react. Okay? So you will have tons of questions. We'll have, if the time permit, if she allows me, I'll take questions now. Otherwise, evening we will catch up offline and we will look into it. Okay? Another set of derailers you can see under pressure, that people who are diligent, they become all the more diligent. So nothing gets cleared from their table further. People who are dutiful under pressure, they become all the more, they'll sit tight on documents and papers and issues. You need to understand this person is going through a very difficult situation or it is an abnormal situation. The most favorite thing which I have found in last 1 year is on the mindset. Anybody is aware about the work done by Dr. Carol Dweck? It's an amazing work which this professor has done. He has talked about 2 mindsets, fixed mindsets and the growth mindset. And I will actually also share a white paper that how much the people who are very traditional, who want very high security, how much micromanager they can be, how insecure or fearful they can be. Actually, in her white paper, she's saying people who are academically brilliant, they have got a fixed mindset. They cannot deal failures. They cannot deal with uncertainty. Between fight and flight, flight is the quickest options. So people who are from very high-end academic institutions and all, they many times struggle in their life because of inability to handle ambiguity and uncertainty, and hence they need help. What is very important in this study which has come up is that once you know what is the mindset I have, I can always elicit help to transition from the fixed mindset to growth mindset. The parenting challenge is to understand that I am very observant and watchful for the behaviors in my child from a very early stage. In fact, you should pick up this book, and it's costing about 350, 380 rupees. You should actually keep it in your personal library because it will help you as a CEO, as a leader, as a parent, as a lot many things in life. That if you are blessed with growth mindset, you are blessed with a lot of good things. But even if you are blessed with the fixed mindset, you can make an effort, take an external help, and transition and transform, which is our theme. Sorry? Book name is called Mindset. Okay? It's called Mindset, and if you go to Amazon, you will get it, and in 2 days they deliver. The original book is only Mindset. The new edition has come, which is only Mindset. I just bought it 8-10 books, and I was gifting to some of my friends because this is a topic which could be a game changer for you to understand as a leader, as a professional, as a parent. Sorry? Why not? Absolutely no problem. That helping is my profession and bread and butter. Don't worry about it. I will send it to you. Help me with your business card. So, guys, I know for youngsters, these things are not very appetizing. I think their mind is more transitioning towards the evening time, but I'm saying this is also worthy. It is going to help you a lot. Huh? That's a good point. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. And so, Kakkar Sahab, it's very interesting, and I'm happy that you asked this question, right? If you are very, very high on tradition, very high on security, right? That means you want to hold on to things till you survive and exist in this planet. Okay? And actually, if you see the detailing of these dimensions, these are only brief summary. As a practitioner, I can say if high on traditions and security, you don't want to take any risk, you just love only success, and traditions are very precious to you. Traditions are important, but the balance is very important.
My question is, I've come across many people who say, it is his mistake, not mine. I'm saying you cannot do no wrong. I'm saying in terms of understanding oneself, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Sometimes people fill questionnaires as to what I want to be,
yeah.
not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm saying is that dilemma is always there. No, I think I'm this, so I want to be this rather than.
So Kakkar Sahab, it's very important that there are some handwritten instruments, and these are instruments which I'm talking about, which is like statistically, even if you try to color it, paint it, manage it, do it like this, eventually the pattern is captured. You know, these are very validated and robust tools. So you get to know that, and I'm saying just going by experiential learning. Because there is something very interesting for all of you to understand. There is something called law of mirror. Is there anybody is familiar with the law of mirror? Okay. Do you understand this sign? What does this sign means? What else it means? Okay. So other way of saying, I'm saying, Kakkad Sahab, you are a very traditional guy. What am I saying? If I say like this, if I'm saying, Kakkad Sahab, you are a very traditional guy. What does it mean? So if I use the law of mirror and I watch this, Kakkad Sahab is traditional, but I'm 3 times more, hence I'm able to see it. So it's a mirror reflection what you see in others. And that we need to be very conscious of, very cognizant of. If I see, Kakkad Sahab, you are a very bright and glowing human being, it's pleasure to meet you. What does it say? About yourself and about myself. What you see is a mirror reflection. And sometimes it's very important in life to understand and help people to understand that. Okay? But it's very important in today's context to understand which kind of situation it is, because it can come in our way in growth and advancement of taking up a higher, bigger role, or even the industry if I want to change, right? It could be a serious problem, right? And today, like, there is a fashion to go to the startups and high-paced industry. And if you happen to be from the fixed mindset, you would be certainly destined for getting stuck or failure. Let's look at the another work which Marshall Goldsmith did, and he talked about 20 habits which are derailer for a professional. Okay. If you look at the first 3, globally, maximum number of CEOs are getting coached on first 3 items. Are becoming expensive also because the day they join or they on board, they are appointed with the executive coach who accompanies with them till the time they exist in that role, right? But the fact of the matter is, this is the first 3 things which is found very commonly in most of the CEOs. And you can see whether it is Jack Welch or Steve Jobs, number 1 was very much there. Number 2 is also, adding value too much. It's like anytime any subordinate comes, you have something more to add to what he says, and then eventually you kid his ideas and thoughts and spoils the show. So while we talk, all HR people talk very proudly about empowerment, we end up doing disempowerment because we wish to add too much value, right? Passing judgment comes very naturally to many of us. This is the 3rd dimension on which we are talking about. And if you pick up the book written by Marshall Goldsmith, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, these 20 things and how you can come over it is also prescribed. Let's look at another set of 12 which Marshall Goldsmith has described. When I work with the topmost leaders, reading this book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is mandatory reading for the individuals. Idea is to bring his energies to neutral. And some of these things, if it is corrected, fixed, it helps in many ways. And let me repeat again, these habits, behaviors, and tendency will be visible even in your domestic context. And when I say in the domestic context, that means CCTV is on and your kids are watching. When it happens at the workplace, CCTV is on not only for security, the people who are role modeling you are also going to model this or imitate you. So understand the consequences, okay? This is a very interesting list, and I want your attention for 5 minutes. Dr. Robert Hogan, who did a research, why CEOs and the leader fails. These are the 11 habits which he identified. And he says that every leader Rather, majority of the leaders will have minimum 3. And I want all of you to do this exercise and do the self-assessment. What are the 3 which are prevalent in you? Every person will have minimum 3. It can be more also. Just have a look and identify for yourself. And mind you, as you can see here, that if these derailers are there, it can impact your growth. Each and every person who is sitting here will have minimum 3. Now, courage and humility. Tapu mai? What are the 3 you see in yourself? Can you be louder? Yes, Thiru, please go ahead.
1, 6, 10. 1, 6, and 10.
Okay.
5, 6, and 10.
Yeah. Okay. Pradhan,
I would put second.
Okay.
Third.
Mm-hmm.
And 10.
10. Okay. Perfect. Okay. 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 Any other volunteer? Let me ask Pradhan now. He has been asking others. Yes. 2, 9, 11. Okay. 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 For you, Sharma? What is that?
4, 6, 10, 11.
Okay. Let me go to the backbenchers. I don't know whether they are here or where they are. Let me hear. Yes. 4, 10, 11. Okay. Okay. Anybody else willing to volunteer? 3, 9, 10. Okay. 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 Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay. Have you taken the picture of this? Take the picture, keep it with you. He has taken the picture. And I think go to Google and research, go to YouTube and research. You will find some remediation. Yes, you are smiling. 2, 8, 10. Huh? 2, 8, 10. Okay. Okay. What else? पास में चले जाओ यार, उसमें क्या बात है? थोड़ा सा you can walk around. उठो सुमित. What is your number? Go na, just walk down yaar. We didn't say that you cannot uproot yourself from your chair. Check with your peer group, is that correct? Check with your spouse, and youngsters can check with their boyfriend or girlfriend that is that what if it is not too much of risk. This gave you some insight, and purposely I brought it at the little later side of it so that you are comfortable. Is curious to know more on this. Thiru, anyone who is more curious to know on this, there is a book called Why CEO Fails by, yeah, I sent you the cover, right. I think it's useful for you to know yourself. Okay, let's see another ego versus IQ. This is another book which has talked about what are the ego traps commonly found in leaders. The workplace. So these are all various ways to look yourself, make yourself more aware, right, and informed, and just start helping yourself, okay? Before you plunge into helping others, start helping yourself, right? What do you see here? Oh, everybody is familiar with the golf bag. And what is inside that? Sticks. Why so many sticks or clubs? Yes, different stroke for different different situations, right? And I think that's very important to understand in a business context. In a different situation, you need to use different clubs if you are on a grass or you are in a sand or a different situation. And that's how the leader needs to be. And you need to understand that while being very possessive about your personality, you are going to use only one or two style of leadership, but that can deprive you with the best results. Now, leadership style could be more immediate compliance, inspiring long-term or accomplished task, or creating harmony, or building mutual commitment. However, if only one style you are going to use 80% of the time, it will reduce your predictability in the results because it won't work. Let's look at this situation where we are seeing a picture. It's a basketball game happening, 2 minutes left. The team is behind 4 points. What is that coach is doing at this moment? Just direction, because you do not have a luxury of time, and he wants just compliance at this point of time. However, you need to understand that if I'm going to use 80% of the time only directive, people will get suffocated with that kind of a manager and leader. And your natural leadership style would be seen as all stick, no carrot, just comply. If you look at another thing, are you familiar with this gentleman? Nelson Mandela. And this picture is from which movie? Lovely movie which all of you must see, called Invictus. And if you really see, he was the most inspiring leader who set in long-term direction and vision for the country. That's amazing. If you have a luxury of time, you can do the visioning exercises. If you do not have a luxury of time, and if you get into the visioning leadership, then you can get actually stuck, may not be effective, okay? So you need to see at what point of time, what discussions you do. Coaching, the least preferred leadership style as per the McKinsey report. Least preferred and practiced style at a topmost level, because one, the belief is not there, and second, they don't see value addition coming. But that's important to groom your second line. And you need to see, if you have a luxury of time, you can get into the coaching dimension, or you can get the external assistance because expertise lies outside. But day-to-day job, it is your responsibility to coach people. Pace setting is also very interesting, where you lead from the front and make people do what is necessary at that situation of time. It can be suffocating if you excessively practice pace setting style. So you need to understand, some time is all right, all the time is going to be very suffocating. Again, it's a question of choice which you need to exercise and pace it with the situation. Affiliative, it's a situation which is more to create happiness and harmony. Every time you cannot be only working on happiness and harmony. The task is equally important. But some people who are very high on people, they lose out on this. Here, all carrot, no stick. You can't demand performance, you can't demand results. You want everybody to be happy, happy, happy. And that's a performance risk, and that's a business risk. Participative, it's an amazing style, building mutual commitment and all positives, but it has to be practiced very mindfully and very situationally. All the time, if it is participative and participative, you can't push through decisions, you can't take quick decisions. So you have to be very cognizant of it, that if excessively practiced, it loses the upside. This is another dimension of assessing a leader, not from the personality perspective, but from the 6 different dimensions of leader, which is very important for leader to know that on this 6 dimensions, where does he stand today. Very beautiful tool, recently launched, and it helps you clearly see how this leader is on result, on people, on process, on thought leadership, on social leadership, on data leadership. And anything which you do excessively would be at the cost of something. So you need to strike a very, very fine balance in this. And if the result dimension is low, then the concern raises further. Once the assessments and all are administered, there is a simple model which David Rock has propounded, which is called ARIA model. ARIA model is essentially saying about bringing the personality dimensions, the issues and the positives and the challenges in front of him, make an individual to reflect. He gets the insight because he knows the answer. You'll have to facilitate that journey and finally put him to the action plan. That's called ARIA model. And it's a very beautiful model. If people who are practicing, they're getting amazing result. Eventually, it is the balancing act, role, context, impact, business necessity. You have to play it and play it well. Thank you so much for your time, attention, and understanding. Questions, since we have already overrun, we will take it up in the evening. I'm sure some people will have, but due to paucity of time, not able to take it. Thank you everyone.